Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Storytale Staging inside the Home Staging TV YouTube channel. I'm your host, Tori Toth. So if you have questions about how to create a winning relationship between a home stager, a real estate agent, and even a seller, you're going to want to listen and take notes. I'm telling you right now, get your pen and paper and take some notes on this topic. Special guest with us today with over 17 years experience in the residential real estate industry. He's been able to leverage the sales, customer relations management, marketing, and even his social media skills to acquire over the years two successful career paths, not one, but two. One as a real estate broker with one of the highest producing firms in his area, and another as the owner of a successful interior consulting firm, which offers services as luxury vacant home staging, color consultations, consulting on renovations, both residential and commercial projects, and many, many more. So he even mentioned in his first 4 years in business of Refresh Your Space, also known as RYS, he has been involved in over $12.3 million in residential and commercial real estate projects. So I can't wait to welcome to the stage Eric Reeves from Refresh Your Space Now, or RYS. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing well. How about you? Welcome to North Carolina.
I know. So you're in the Smoky Mountains of North Carolina.
The Blue Ridge. We're in the northwest corner, and they're in the southwest corner. But yeah, it's all on that same line, but just different ones. Close enough.
Close enough. Well, what is the market there like these days?
Real estate market is like everywhere else. It's been fairly steady, and I say that fairly. I should take the out. It's been steady, and like everywhere else, we have limited supply. Inventory of homes, especially in that sweet spot range of the 350 to 750 range. So those are the highest demand. And I'm also in a resort area, and it's a lot. There's two separate towns. So my office is in Boone, and Boone is where the university is. So University Town. So that makes it a little bit different clientele. And then I live over in Blowing Rock, which they're kind of sister towns, which is about 7 miles over. And it's more retirees, a lot of people out from Florida, reverse snowbirds that come out for the summers, and a lot of tourists that come from off the mountain to escape the heat. We're probably 10 to 15, sometimes 20 degrees cooler up here. So our market is different than anywhere else, I can say. Because I did start my career in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so I think that and overall, if you talk to people, I think you might see a little bit of softening in the market because supply is starting to catch up a little bit, but we still need listings. I mean, if you wanted to sell your home, now is the time to do it because you really can capture the heat of the market.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you've encompassed both sides of this relationship when it comes to selling a property. Obviously, the way it looks and showcasing and preparing it for sale is so important, but then also being able to direct the sale and deal with the real estate side of it. Share with us why, obviously you're not only qualified, but why you're so passionate about like this merge and having both of these as your expertise.
Well, I grew up, my mom was a real estate broker. She got her salesperson's license back in the 70s. And I used to help her, go measure houses, or she'd go on an appointment and, I'd go with her, hang out in the car. And then I called myself an office rat. I was always hanging out at her office, and, when you're there, you just absorb all this information. I used to get her MLS books before they had the computers and get these great big books, and I'd flip through and look at the houses. So I've always had an interest in homes. And then whenever I was living in Chicago in 2002, after 9/11, I was a flight attendant with United. And I thought, this might not be the career path that is really for me. So I went back to school. I already have a degree from Appalachian State, which is where I am now. And it's in advertising communications. And so I went back to school for interior design. So after I went to school for interior design, I got my real estate license back here in North Carolina. And so the two just, they work so well together, you know. The two feed off of each other because somebody who's selling is eventually going to be a buyer. If they buy a home, they're going to want to usually remodel it. So I say I can stage it, sell it, and remodel it. So that's why I try to be full service.
I love it. And I love that you're able to take that client full circle depending and meet them wherever they are in, you know, in that process. Talk a little bit about, so in a perfect world, what should a relationship look like between a home stager, a real estate agent, and, you know, even the home seller? We'll bring the home seller into it in a second, but what is like the home stager and real estate agent? What should that relationship look like?
Well, so many times I hear, especially from the home stager side, kind of an adversarial relationship. Oftentimes, where home stagers are, oh, this agent did this agent did that. And if you're doing it in a proper way, I think, and this is just how I've worked and how I've been able to manage my business, is tell the agent that, you know, you really want to become part of their marketing team. And this is a team effort. You both have the same goal in mind. You want to sell the house as quickly as possible and for as much money as possible, because that just makes you look better. It makes the homeowner more money. It makes the real estate agent happy because now they've got that off their books. They can get on to the next one. So it should be a team versus being, I'm the stager and I'm going to go in and do this, and I'm the real estate agent and I want this. You know, if you kind of lay out your plans as the home stager or designer and let them know, hey, this is my experience. I've done this. You know, I'm doing this for the buyer and I think about the demographic. So that might be something too that would be a good working relationship, that you don't have that information, the demographics of who would be looking for that particular home. You know, you find out what the price point is going to be and what demographic is looking in that price point and in that location. And that's the stuff the realtor can give you. So it should be a working relationship because you both have the same goal in mind. So
Yeah.
that's how I look at it.
Yeah, to sell the property, same goal. Is there anything, I mean, from an agent perspective and a stager perspective, like where you cross the line and you probably shouldn't? Is there any situations like that you could think of?
Yeah, I think so. Whenever I'm doing it, even though I am a realtor and I've got, you know, years of experience, I never really talk to the realtor. I don't dictate or tell them what the price should be. I might tell them, you know, this seems a little high. Are you sure? Have you done the comparative analysis? And so if the stager is kind of being too aggressive about price point, then that will be crossing the line. And from the realtor side, if you're going in there trying to tell a stager, well, I want this arc here and I want this sofa there and do that, that's where they cross the line. So everybody needs to stay in their lane, although you are working as a team. So if I need something, I can go to that realtor and go, hey, look, can you give me 3 more days, block it off for this day because someone has to come in and take photos or video or whatever it is. They're more likely to work with you than against you, is what I have found.
Yeah, speaking of that, I mean, there are a lot of stagers out there that say they almost feel like they can't be in control of their own schedule because it's based off of what the agent is dictating and what they want to come to market. So what do you have to say about that? So the stager can still really maintain a schedule, but be there for their client as well.
And that's the hard part. A lot of times as realtors, you might be in the office, you get a call, hey, can you come take a look at my house? We're thinking about selling it. You go out, you do your listing presentation, and like, okay, we're ready to go. And so the realtor has to schedule photographs. They've got to get whatever other marketing they're doing. If they're going to do a video, if they're going to do Matterport, which is a 360 camera view that gives you a dollhouse view that you can go in and move around. I'm sure if anyone was like real estate, they've probably seen a Matterport video. So they've got a lot of scheduling to do on their side, and it's fast because obviously they want to get it to market as fast as possible. And so that then doesn't give the stager a lot of time to prepare that they would normally want. And so I think that's a lot of times where the adversarial relationship comes in, is that the realtor is dictating, oh, you've got to be finished by this date, and we're going to go on market this date. And so that's where I say, if you can foster a winning relationship together and say, look, I'm going to work as fast as I can to get this done, but this also has my name on it. So I want to make sure it's representing me and my company and my brand correctly, just like you want to do whenever you market it. You want to make sure that it's representing your brand correctly, and I want to make you look good. So for me to make you look good, I need this. And I think being firm, but still professional about it, you can come to an understanding, and they understand the pressures that you have. You know, they think that you just throw some stuff on a truck and you drive out and put stuff in it, and there's a lot more to it. You know? You have to go maybe measure. I always go measure, because you don't know what size sofa you need where, and what size carpet. And so there's a lot of planning from the stager side that the realtor doesn't really think of. So by educating your realtor, if that's your client, it might be the actual home seller that's hiring, but a lot of times it's the realtor that is bringing you on board and that you're working with. It's just making sure that you communicate.
Yeah, I would agree. Communicate, and even letting them know in advance your processes, so they can then estimate it with what it is they need to get done as well. Talk about, we're all in a hot market right now. There are some stagers out there that are flourishing and they have like too much work going on. And then there's other stagers out there basically using the hot market as an excuse as to why they're not getting staging jobs. So why is it important at this point for an agent to work with a stager in a hot market like this if things are just flying off the shelf?
Well, as I said, I've seen a little bit, and I think market reports reflect this as well, that we've seen a little bit of softening in the market. So you're not having maybe 50 offers the very first day. You actually can put an offer in and maybe go a little bit under asking versus going 50,000 over asking. So that right there gives you a little bit of leverage as far as what I'm going to do is going to come in as the stager. And studies have shown, and you have to have your stats, and there's all kinds of stuff out there available from the different professional organizations that show that a staged home that is staged before it goes on the market tends to bring higher offers, and it sells more quickly. You know, and I always tell people this isn't a guarantee. I mean, just like real estate, you don't know. It's like fishing. You got to find that one person that likes the house, but all it takes is one. So I would say that I just completely lost my train of thought, which is normal for me.
But are there any things that a stager should focus on, and saying like, well, you want your photos to be prepared, and you want us to be in there, so we're actually showing your brand and marketing, and like, so are there any specific talking points that a stager should have with an agent at this point in a hot market to be able to potentially get some projects?
Yeah. Once again, I go back to knowing your market, knowing the demographics, and then having your information, your statistics with you, so that you can, once again, it goes to education. We're kind of educating the realtor who may not know that 95% of people start their home shopping online now, and so the better the home looks online, the better chance you're going to have of selling it, faster and possibly for more money with multiple offer situations. So I think that is the biggest part, and it goes back to communication for me on both sides. So if you are both communicating and you're trying to get more business and you're getting pushed back, having your ducks in a row, your information, your past sales, this is what this house did. Like, I'm working on a house right now that's been on the market for over 300 days at 1.347, something like that, 1.3, let's say. And it's just, there's nothing wrong with the house. It just needed to be freshened up. It just looks sad. It's very brown and, just needs some cleaning. And so we're going in, just putting in some new furniture here and there. And with that kind of education to the realtor, like, look, I can do this. And if they are willing to spend, and I don't say spend, I say invest, because it is an investment, in their home, they're going to see higher and better results. So it goes back to the education and having your information that you can have at the ready. And you should know this stuff too. You should be able to like spill it off and go. And yeah, you might need to pull up a certain stat or something and show, but you should be able to do, they say that 30-second elevator speech, which is now, I think, condensed down because of social media to like 10-second our span. So you can really be able to hit them with your numbers right away.
Yeah. And everyone out there, if you guys have questions, go ahead and put them in the comments below. We'd be more than happy to answer them. If you're facing objections, we might be able to give you some clues on how to overcome those as you're building a relationship between stagers and real estate agents. So Eric, why obviously is this important to really focus in on this relationship? So the seller benefit. Why would a seller benefit from having a relationship with a stager and an agent?
Once again, I hate to keep saying this word, is communication. So in education, so the homeowner is probably watching HGTV. They see these houses and, it's ugly and it's empty and it's whatever. And then in 30 seconds or in a 30-minute show, you're getting this beautiful product, and they never tell you how much it costs or how much time the person put into it or any of the backstory information. I wish they would do a show with all the backstories side of what the home stager actually does. And it could be a good show, HGTV, if you want to talk to anybody, where you have the whole team working together from beginning to end and seeing the process. Because once the homeowner knows what's going into it, one, I think that they feel more comfortable about investing, in the home staging, whatever the home stager might recommend. And I hate to keep using home stager because it's not just home stagers that do this. I mean, designers too. So the one I just mentioned, I am actually calling designing to sell because the price point, and also purchasing new furniture, purchasing new accessories, new bedding, all that sort of stuff. It falls more into a different realm because the house is being sold furnished. So at the same time, I went and picked out furniture for them. I was like, okay, you guys need to buy this to put in because we're replacing the great room furniture. And the homeowner, they said, we trust you completely. If you say go, go. So of course, things like he went by and he had to tell me his, I want to tell you my honest thought. I'm like, okay, great. I'm like, well, remember that conversation we had about that this isn't about you. This is about your buyer and who's going to be coming in. And somebody at this price point does not want to buy a sofa that has a chair in it. And we need something quickly. And the furniture right now is on a back order of 20 plus weeks. So finding something locally that I can pull in. So once again, I don't know where I was going with that, but I'm sure it was a good point.
It's Friday.
It is Friday. Right? It is. I mean, look at all the stuff going on behind me. It's like, oh, my brain is oozing on my ears.
Yes, but you manage to make it all work all the time. What's some of the staging lingo? I mean, the real estate lingo stagers should know.
I think you need to know the difference, one, between a realtor and a realtor. So, you hear everybody saying, this is so funny in a weird way, that, we do continuing education every year. And one year they had part of like the first 10 minutes of how you actually say realtor. It's not realtor, it's realtor. So the realtor is an actual organization that you have to join. You don't have to join it, but you join. Whereas there are some realtors who aren't realtors. So that is a difference, because a realtor is bound by a code of ethics, just like several other, like if you're part of RESA, let's say, they have a code of ethics that you have to follow. And so knowing that difference is going to show you that that person's on a different level, because they are adhering to those standards. And then you want to know some basic contract lingo, like for your state. And so I can only speak to North Carolina. So once you have, so that let's say a seller makes an offer, then it comes back, that's a counter offer. At that point, the offer's dead unless the buyer accepts that counter offer or wants to make a counter offer of their own. So at that point, each time it counter offers, the offer's technically dead unless that person accepts or counters. So then once that's done and both sides sign, then it's an executed contract. So whenever you say contract, you don't really have a contract until both sides have signed it and you've agreed on your terms and both sides have signed it. So knowing that, like when is the execution date is kind of one of those things that you would want to know. Also, the periods. So in North Carolina, once a contract goes in escrow, which means it's been signed by both parties, you now have an official contract, you're in escrow, we have a due diligence period. So that due diligence period is the period where you do all of your inspections, you have to get your financing, you do any and all inspections that you want, but you only have a certain amount of time, which is agreed upon in that back and forth. So typically, if somebody's getting a loan, let's say it's about 45 days normally, because that's about how long, on average, a mortgage takes to be processed. So during that time, it's important that if you are staging a home, that you have in your contract that the house stays furnished with your belongings until due diligence ends, because anything can happen during due diligence. And I'd probably say 75%, and I don't know this, I'm just making this up, but just from personal experience, of deals fall apart during that due diligence period, because one of the problems is, and this is something I talk to my home sellers about, is letting go. This is no longer your home. Yes, it is, but you have to consider this a product. And so when you go in the grocery store, you want to look at this stuff up here, which is the good brand stuff, or do you want to look down there and get the store brand stuff? So we want ours to be up here. So knowing that it's going to remain that way throughout, so if the deal falls apart, you're not going back in there and having to, restage the property. And so that's something I put in my contract, and it saves the homeowner money, because if it does fall apart, I'm going to have to go back in there. I'm going to have to charge them. So that's a term that I think that you should know is your due diligence period, if you have one. If not, it would just be your inspection period, or your, it's called different things in different states. But knowing what that is for your state, and that's something else you can ask your realtor. If you have a good working relationship, you can go, okay, what is the inspection period? How long is it? Some states it's like 10 days. So it can be anything. And then you want to know the closing dates, and that's important. Or closing and settlement, same thing. That's when the money changes hands. And in North Carolina, it's not really official until it is filed in the courthouse. It's recorded. So even though you've signed all the paperwork, technically you can't pass keys at the closing table, because it has to go now to the courthouse. So just knowing that process a little bit, even though you're going to be gone by then, it's kind of, I think just knowing the process from the realtor side helps with that relationship.
But I think even, with what you were saying, you definitely need to know when to get that furniture out, because there's so many times there is that conversation where the agents try to rush the furniture out before the deal is actually finalized. So
right.
Definitely important to protect your client even on that level if your agent doesn't know that. But you went back, I want to go back to something that you said, you're like, yeah, you need to educate the agent. And you would think at this point they are familiar with what home staging is, but you're saying like even more education.
Yeah, when I first started my business here, I'm in my 5th year. They didn't have anyone here that does home staging. There's no home furniture rental companies. There's interior designers, but no one had this service. So when I first started, I was educating realtors. Like I would say, homestead, like, what is that? And this was only 5 years ago. And home staging's been around for a while, as you know. So
Yeah.
even today, it's more common, but a lot of sellers don't know. So it's educating the realtor and the seller. And the seller, you're breaking them out of the mold, or not the mold, but the mindset of HGTV moments, and also getting them to let go of, stop thinking of this so much about your home and think about it as money. And so that's how I kind of communicate with them. Like nothing I say when I go into your home is about you, and nothing has meant this hurt your feelings. This is about money. And at a deep down level, at some point, money is a motivator. It may not be your number one motivator, but if you're selling your home, money is a motivator. So bringing it to that level sometimes is what you have to do.
Yeah, there is that whole psychology behind it. We have a question from Selena. She's like, I'm not sure if I missed it, but what turns off an agent right away?
Well, just speaking personally, it would be the home stager that is the know-it-all. You might know it all, but you got to eat some humble pie sometimes. And sorry, our lights are. If you have to move to make them come on, and it's Friday afternoon, most people are leaving. Anyway, what were we talking about?
What turns an agent off right away?
Oh yeah. So if you go in there and you're like, okay, I'm doing this, and you can't have you can't have the house until today. It has to be a working relationship. That's not a working relationship. A relationship is people from both sides putting their input and coming in together. And yeah, like I said, you know what needs to happen, and you might be the know-it-all, but and you've got 30 years in the business. Still, the realtor is the one that's driving the boat, or driving the ship, or driving the car, whatever that saying is. And so it's on them to make sure that this gets on the market as quickly as possible. So if you work with them, 9 times out of 10, they're going to work with you.
Yeah, I would agree. And then this was a 2-parter, Eric. So what also impresses in an agent the most?
I think somebody that is organized with presentation, organized with their materials, like I was speaking about earlier, where if you can pull out facts and figures, because realtors are all about numbers. So if you can pull out your, say, your data sheet of your last 5 sales, and this is what we did, and how fast this happened, and having your information together. And then I also think being professional and having a professional website, having strong social media, which that's a whole separate topic, I know. But they look at all that, and that's a lot of times how they even find you. So making sure everything that you have and that you do is professional. I see so many times, and it's the text culture where letters go out and people will write in a letter like they text, and you forget just because we do it so frequently. And like, whoa, you can't say it you can't say through with THRU, spell it out correctly. And so things like that just put that impression on people. And it's all about first impressions. The first impression of the home is the first impression of you. So you want to make sure that you are showing your best, putting your best foot forward, showing your best side from the very beginning. And that's going to make them respect you more too.
Well, and I would say too, what would impress them is what we're talking about here today, like knowing the process on their end, and being able to come in as a supportive role.
And throw out those terms like, okay, when, will you let me know when the contract is executed and how long you have for your inspection period? Throwing out some terms that they know you understand the process, I think will also go a long way in helping you come across as the professional that you are.
Yeah, Selena, thank you so much for your question. If anyone else has questions
Yeah.
out there, go ahead, put them in the comments below. We've got a couple more minutes with Eric. So is there any other process that stands out to you, real estate process, that you think the stager should be aware of?
From the real estate side, I think that knowing that realtor's brand, not that you're necessarily going to use that in your staging per se, but knowing their brand. So if you're working with a high-end realtor with a high-end brand, you want to make sure that your furnishings match that expectation. And then if you're with somebody that's more local and, it's the laid back realtor and it's, it's all cool, then you might be, and depending on the home, you might be able to use a different type of tactic and different furnishings. So I think that knowing that person's, just like you have a brand, you have to know their brand and you want to meet their expectations.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. It's bringing in, it's complementing their brand with the staging and with the way you show up with the client, because at the end of the day, you're kind of representing them in the process too.
And that's a good point that you say that, Tori, because how you present yourself. Like I wouldn't wear this if I'm going to meet somebody that's selling out a farmhouse or something like that, just because I don't want to come across as being arrogant or anything like that. So I think you need to also dress to your audience. If you're going to meet the high producer and your highest producer in your area, you want to impress them, go through the car wash, small things like that.
Well, I think it's super important as stagers, if you're going to be staging houses and that's what you're doing, you also need to be staging yourself and showing up to represent your brand and that price point of person that you want to work with.
Definitely.
Oftentimes people they don't think about the self-care and the personalization that you need for your business. So I think that's really, really important. What about, talk a little bit about the fiduciary duty of offering staging. I mean, because that's a big part of it, right? Where
I'm offering what? I'm sorry.
to offer staging, like doesn't the real estate agent technically have to mention staging because of their fiduciary duty, or?
It depends on the property. Like I said, where I live, it's a second or third or fourth home market, and we have ski resorts here, and especially in the ski area, a lot of people will sell their home furnished. So it's in the MLS listing that it will say furnished or unfurnished. And so that will let the showing agent know, the buyer's agent know that, okay, you're going to try to sell the furnishings as well when you're showing the property. Like, oh, wow, look how nice that sofa, when I say sell, I mean sell the client on these furnishings. So, wow, this place is really, decorated well, and I can tell somebody cared for it. So that is how we work here. If you are in a place that's not offering furnished and it's the client living there and it's their furnishings and you may have gone in and just helped them spruce up and maybe added some accessories, there needs to be a exclusion list that anything that's not being sold with the property is listed on an exclusion list. And that's more for, I guess, really the furnished homes. Some homes are completely vacant that I do. I offer everything as a package the way you see it, or you can buy a la carte, just because that's the way I'm able to work my system. But if the homeowner has things in there that they know they want to take, but yet the house is being sold furnished, there has to be an exclusion list that has to be attached to, in our system, you're able to upload certain documents into the MLS system that we're able to pull out and see, okay, here's their property disclosures, here's this, here's that, and then here's their exclusion list. So as you're walking through the home, somebody doesn't latch on to that chandelier, and it never fails. There's one item in the home that's not being sold with the home, and the client latches onto it. And it's like, oh, I want, and there's been deals that fall apart because of that. So that's another education thing that you're telling your the realtor and the homeowner, anything that's not going to be sold with the home, I guess I'm talking about if it's say a furnished home. If it's not going to
Mhm.
be sold with the home, make sure it's listed as an exclusion. If you're working with an occupied side, and I can't speak to it as well as like somebody like Bobby McGrath can, because she's the expert, as we all know. But if you're working on the occupied side and you are offering things, you would put it in their opposite. So the sale includes the master bedroom set, and the living room furniture, except for these three things. So that would be, and that has to be listed out. If you go and create an executed contract and that isn't in there, and then they come back later and go, oh, by the way, that chandelier and that table and that thing are not part of the deal. Once again, you're just setting yourself up for, and that's really more on the realtor part, that their duty. But as the home stager, it's good to know that, especially if you're working with an occupied listing, so that, and if you're going in helping them and you brought in stuff that's your personal items that you have in your inventory and you're renting to them, or however your relationship is, that gets noted. And there's, in most places I've seen, there's agent notes and agent remarks, and you would just put in there, or like I said, you would put the exclusion list attached as one of the documents that goes with the sale of the house.
I love that. I love that you mentioned that too. We did that in our recent house that we sold as well. Some things were staying, some were going. I see a couple new people popping in here. So if you guys have questions, we have a few minutes left with Eric. Please feel free to put them in the comments below. We can answer them. Eric, here's a question for you. How do you think agents want to connect with somebody initially when you're trying to build this relationship with a stager? Is an email sufficient? Picking up the phone? Because they're inundated with so many different vendors and things. What do you see the best way to start the communication?
Who's initiating it? The stager?
The stager is
realtor?
Yeah.
You're right. You do get a lot of emails daily. A lot of them are from people with different services wanting us to use their service for, lead generation, or for social media, or let me run your website. So quite honestly, I think a personal handwritten note to that realtor is going to catch their attention. And I've been part of a selling process that my company adopted a few years ago, and it's called Ninja Selling. And one of the things is there's a routine of 9 things you do each day. One of them is you write 2 handwritten notes each day, and you'd be surprised at what those do. And that doesn't mean you only do 2. I mean, if you want to do more, go for it. If you got a list of realtors and say there's 1,000 on your list, do 5 one day, 5, however you want to do it. But that, I think, is a really good way to catch someone's attention. Phone call, if they have time. And I'm not talking about let's chit chat about the weather. I'm saying, hey, I just want to introduce myself. I want to take a minute of your time. And if you ever need my service, here's my website. Make sure you check it out. I'm going to follow this up with an email, just so you know. I think that's effective too. I think if you just rely on email or email marketing, you're kind of missing a piece of it there.
Yeah, I definitely like to using video right here, like
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or their text or something.
Yeah, and I've also heard people now doing in their email signature, they'll have like a link, either a link to a video or a video. You're the expert there how to do it, where it'll be like a 30-second video of like, hey, I'm Eric, and this is what I do, and this is what I can do for you, and this is my process, and it's that elevator speech, and you don't want to make it too long because our attention spans are like that. So you are the expert in telling us how long to do it, but don't you agree something like that is effective?
30 seconds or less, and at this point, probably 15 seconds or less, because everyone's so inundated now with Reels and TikTok, and so again, that's a whole other subject we need to be talking about.
I know that's another topic that brings somebody other than me, because I'm not the one to talk to about that.
Anything that you provide or that you feel will help an agent in a listing presentation to get the message across about the benefits of home staging and the value of it? Is it as simple as a flyer? What do you think would be innovative and creative to give an agent in a listing presentation?
Well, I have I think it's 7 pages now of why unique staging, staging statistics, my bio, um, a sheet with past, um, referrals, people that have left referrals for you, and then have it on really nice, at least 32-pound paper. And if you don't know what that is, go to Staples or wherever your local store is. And 20-weight paper is like the normal stuff you use in the copier. 32-pound is the stuff that's like a heavier, they make it even like has a small gloss to it. And it just steps up that presentation. And so you give it, and so the realtor's not going to be embarrassed to hand them this thing that you printed on, a 30-year-old printer. So having that to give to the realtor to include with their package is definitely going to be a benefit to you and to them. And once again, the website. And on your website, you should have links to either videos, you should have your portfolio. I've got a questions and answers page now that is able to, because I'm all about automation. So if I can answer somebody's question on my website, which your website needs to be a sales driver anyway, you always want to lead people to your website. I think that is going to be a good benefit for the realtor to go, just to submit the fact that you are a professional in what you're doing.
Yeah, I love that too. And being able to bring everyone back to your website, using video, showing your portfolio, and continuing to build the relationship that way. Right. Eric, any final thoughts?
I am so happy that you brought up this topic. I've been wanting to do this for a while now. And I would say something that I just left off about the presentation is, if you do belong to a professional organization, I happen to belong to the Real Estate Staging Association. They do a study every year, and they have got this really nice, it's actually 42 pages long, that I email after to clients. It's all about, and it has all that information in it that I was discussing. It has your stats. It has why you need a professional stager, the difference between the professional stager and a not professional stager. You want to make sure that stager has insurance, is has the qualifications, is meeting the expectations of your brand. And once again, as realtors, I might work for a firm, but I am also my brand, because I'm my brand for my company. So I think those are kind of my final thoughts in a random kind of way.
It was not random at all. We thank you so much for your expertise and sharing the knowledge and the light on both sides of this relationship, because it can be a really daunting for stagers, feeling that they have to go out and actually make these connections and build these relationships. So knowing some of the insider tips and tricks on how to do that is really beneficial. And I hope that you do at some point put this course out there to the world, because
I know. I plan on it. I'm actually posting for a new assistant on Monday. So once I get some time, I'm going to do that. So look for it soon.
Look for it soon. If you guys want to follow Eric, make sure you do that. Where's the best place to follow you, Eric? I know Clubhouse, but what else?
I know, over on Clubhouse. I have pages on every social media. So if you go to my website, which is RYS, which is refresher space, rysinteriors.com, there's links to all my social on there. And so that's probably the easiest way to do it in the shortest amount of time.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us today, sharing your knowledge. And I hope all have learned something. Let us know in the comments below, what was your key takeaway? If you guys have questions and you're on the replay, put those down below as well. We will be happy to answer them, and I can always forward them on to Eric too as well.
Which I know you will. We'll talk about it on Clubhouse.
Yes, we'll talk about it on Clubhouse. Be sure you follow us over on Clubhouse too. I'm Tori Toth, Stager. What's your handle?
I don't know. I think I'm three dogs dad on there. The number 3 dogs dad, because I have 3 dogs. But if anyone's not on there, you really should be, because it's so educational. And Tori teaches or has a room. Is it on Thursdays or is it twice a week? Tuesdays and Thursdays?
Tuesdays. Yes.
with Charmaine and the masterclass.
Masterclass. That's the club. But you still need to get in with an invite. So feel free to message either myself and Eric. We have
plenty. Yeah.
to share. Thank you guys so much. Have an amazing weekend. If you found this helpful, please share it out with somebody else who can gain some knowledge with it. And see you back here next Friday at the same time, talking about a brand new topic when it comes to home staging. Have an amazing day, and Eric, stay right there.
Yeah, thanks.